Cheers, Dermot.
Yay! Hi, Dave.
Isn't this a better
Cheers.
studio to do
This is way better.
an interview, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is going to be about interviewing.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things people don't know about you is that you have a bit of a journalism background. That
way back.
You came out of the prairies.
Yeah.
You crawled out of a prairie field with a camera in your hand, right?
Yep.
And
Pretty much.
you did some learning, higher level learning.
Mm-hmm.
Too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, about that.
And you've been watching me do podcast interviews and for a little while now.
Mm-hmm.
And I am, through our conversations, very interested in having you interview me
Uh-huh.
using that master's thesis knowledge of yours. And,
Yes, he has a master's degree.
Yeah, this university-educated guy with a journalism background, right? It's turned artsy.
Okay, Dave, I'll stop you right there.
Interrupting. That's a good technique.
No, that's, I know.
Anyway, so this one's your podcast interview.
Oh, my God.
So go ahead.
Okay.
Good luck with that.
Next time you get to do me, but we were talking about that. We were just talking about how we both sort of had long roads. You've had a lot longer road. Mine was interrupted, but I ended up working on my thesis was about the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about that back at 176 Lakeshore, and what came out for me about you and about your life was, I think you said to me, I was watching a show on TV, and that's what led me to this career that I'm now carving for myself, basically, right? Well, remember that we were talking about.
Well, I think what it was is what I said is that I never intended to be a reporter.
Yeah.
I was always more interested in the marketing and business end of communications.
And the design end too, right? This sort of creativity.
Yeah, I was a photographer.
Yeah.
A budding photographer starting in grade 6. Right? So photography, expression, telling a tale, documenting things. I got 100 photos of a toad, right? With one of those little 110 cameras that are useless, but drove my dad nuts when he'd get my film processed and find out that I was just shooting chickens from above.
And that's what you're like, okay, I can do this in the newspaper. I can do this in the newspaper world, or I can try to get into that. And
that was part of it, but it's like
it was a lifestyle, wasn't it? Like the I Dream of Jeannie lifestyle that you sort of
I was always
anyway. It's Darren from I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah. Well, I was interested in the marketing end and the advertising departments because all those type shows were about TV and marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought I had an imaginative sort of brain and intuitive and whatnot, and
sort of inventive too, like inventing different ways to interest people.
Yeah, well, right? I used to read a lot, like Jack London, Call of the Wild, White Fang. That's what I grew up reading. Hardy Boys. I was very into that. I spent a lot of time reading National Geographics. It's like I was very much into learning and imagining the world. National Geographics came in every... My dad had like a library of them, but I read all of them almost, right? I just loved reading.
And that also... That must have led to some sort of a love for photography too.
I think so, because I saw what they were shooting. The world was opened up.
Always the best of photography in those old.
So that was my art sort of creative process. I used to try to draw when I was growing up and whatnot, but when I was heading into journalism print program at Canadore, I had absolutely no inclination to be a reporter.
Yeah.
I was wanting to learn how to write at a marketable level where I
Right.
could earn a living writing somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was leaning
not
towards
a
marketing,
newshound or
but not a
anything
news hound.
No.
Like when I watched Superman and Spider-Man, I didn't want to be Parker,
Yeah.
right?
And Clark Kent.
I would like to be a Spider-Man, but not the reporter, right? It just didn't
Yeah.
seem...
Bland was what they wanted to portray there, right?
Yeah, I liked the idea, but I knew that wouldn't suit me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I watched Ed Asner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like, you know, the fact that they ran out and did news stories, but I didn't like doing that. Meeting strangers and talking to them, that makes me nervous.
This came, our conversation, it came to that. It kind of got a little, for me anyway, it got serious because I think you asked me, well, you know, what made you leave, or how did you get out of it? And I guess that can also lead back to sort of. So I'm gonna give you that little story, but then that's also going to lead back to how you sort of became the news hound, right? So there's that transition. For me, you know, I was in the weekly newspapers. I was out there covering the stories. I had a good knack for photography back then when we had to, as you've done, had to develop the nags ourselves and print them in shop and things like that. I enjoyed that part. This was in northern Alberta, small newspapers and towns. But
what towns?
Whitecourt, Vegreville. I worked at a weird place called the Strathmore Standard.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so there's a few of them.
Yeah.
Oh, and the Windermere Valley Echo.
Oh,
which was a
the
treat.
Windermere.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Anyway, but what kind of tore it for me, in a way, with a job, it's strange because you kind of have the job, the money's streaming in, right? And your principles are sort of tucked away in the back, or your feelings, you know. But I guess at a certain stage, I just couldn't be that person who was out there searching for blood and guts and fear and loathing and all of that. So I dropped it and I went into landscape gardening instead. But
well, that's a huge left turn, Clyde.
Exactly. But that just is it preface to. So here you are, you knew what you wanted in a sense, or you had the dream, and what happened? Did you get a job at a newspaper and you were right away a reporter, or yeah?
Well, I needed to work, and I wanted some reporting experience to guide me so that I had something to write about.
Mm-hmm.
Jack London didn't just pop out of a masonry building in downtown New York and start writing action stuff and adventure novels, right?
No.
You got to actually go do something.
Yeah.
So you can have something to write about.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I threw myself into the fray and see what journalism was going to give me as far as giving me some stories to write about.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about writing books and novels. I wasn't thinking about writing 350 tight words over and over and over again. Right.
Yeah.
And covering those accidents
W5.
and the the murder scenes and,
Yeah.
and the courtrooms and the drudgery, and then the fun and the frolic of sports. Which,
Didn't the sports thing? Weren't you saying that kind of was a saving grace in a way? That was.
It gave me an easy entry because I was I was sport literate, and also passionate about athletics pursuits.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was an easy thing for me because I could use that background of knowing how to write descriptively. Sports is all cliche and drama, right? And my limited skill set was very well suited for that, and most everybody else didn't want to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And I was 21, 22 when I got into it. I saw right away that nobody wanted to do this, so I can go make some money doing this.
Yeah.
The first bursary I won was they gave $100 to whoever could write the best sports story. Well, boom, right?
Yeah.
And then there was only 3 of us, and I was smarter than 2 of them, right? Right? Or just a little bit better to start. I was a mature student, so I had a little bit of advantage over the 18, 19-year-olds.
Right. Yeah.
In my class, and I just saw an opportunity there. Yeah.
But what about the dream? What about the kind of dream to?
Well, I knew it was going to take work.
It
was going to take work.
Right. Yeah.
So I had 5 to 10 years of my life I was willing to dedicate to building up some kind of adventure to write about, as well as to fuel what I want to do next. It wasn't supposed to be 35 years of this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really. It was interrupted. I only made it. My first real job was in '89.
Yeah.
Lasted 7 weeks.
Okay. Sounds like some of my jobs.
Next job was with the North Bay Independent. It was sports editor, then became news editor, then got demoted and out the door. So that was a 6-month job. And then I went to Kapuskasing.
Was that, by the way, with Bill Kennedy?
Yeah, it was with Bill Kennedy.
Yeah, because he talks about you. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it was
fondly.
It was a very adventurous time. It was
it
was actually the most memorable, and it was really a cool experience. That was what I was looking for, was to be with an upstart newspaper, with an upstart crowd, with just energy, and that was the best. It only lasted 6 months. But then I went to Kapuskasing for 2 years. And to be in a small town with people that were with a paper that was well respected. Again, I was sports editor because they needed one and I could do it.
Yeah.
And then I left there as news editor, acting news editor too. Because you know.
Yeah.
If you can do the drudgery of sports and other stuff that nobody else wants to do, and you can do layout.
Yeah.
And you have some type of writing ability, you can do news. I did news as well, right?
Yeah.
Covered school board up there.
And that brings you to editor pretty fast.
Very fast.
Yeah.
If you show up all the time and can do layout, because it was starting to be digital layout.
Yeah.
So the old composing staff. And
do you remember the Ludlow?
No, Ludlow? No.
Okay, maybe you didn't have the Ludlows. There. Did you have? Sorry, this is lateral of me.
You can go all over.
But.
It's your interview.
That's right. Yeah. What am I apologizing for? It's cool. The journalism is really cool because it's linked to technology, and that's what you're talking about now, too. You were sort of there at the beginning of the sort of computer.
Well, Ventura Publishing program was being taught.
Yeah.
Have you heard about that? No, it's gone.
No.
Right? It was one of the first ones for desktop publishing. One of the first ones that were
Ventura.
To be used.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were learning it, and I took to it very quickly.
Yeah.
But of course, you'd lay out a column, cut it out, and just paste it up like the composing, because the computers couldn't handle the digital information.
I remember the waxers.
Yeah.
the waxers. People might not know that.
Yeah.
What is a waxer?
Yeah. Well, you slip the photo through, and one side comes out with a little bit of wax in it. Right?
You stick that on.
Yeah.
To your goldenrod paper was something else, wasn't it?
Well, layout paper.
Layout
Anyways.
paper. Yeah.
With
yeah.
the column.
Yeah, the column is a little. It was kind of
with
fun.
gutters and stuff.
Yeah.
I was pretty good with a knife too. Like I could do both. So I could do the layout, but the computers couldn't handle the digital information, like the amount of memory.
Yeah.
So you couldn't put a photo at that time on the computers we're using. It would just blah.
Yeah.
It would take 3 hours to print out.
So you had to actually paste the actual photo into the layout. Yeah.
Not only that, like because it couldn't handle the whole page and print it out because the printers weren't big enough for the paper. So we had to lay it out as part of the course.
Yeah, basically.
But we had to print it
paste.
out in pieces modularly and strip them in like they would for the old ways.
Yeah.
So it was a hybrid system at first.
Yeah.
And it was pretty similar to a couple different papers I went to.
Yeah, and I remember like you'd have all the ads from the previous week or something, and they'd already be waxed. So build them on this corner like this, and then here.
And the fillers, all the little fillers, right?
Yeah, the filler stuff.
I love the composing part. Like very hands-on. I love that.
Yeah, it was fun too. I can remember it anyway. I just don't have a huge long career in it or anything, but I'm assumed that I don't know. For me, I got into digital work with my art, right? My first writing, a lot of writing. We made magazines, literary magazines and things, Dave. But the fun kind of, well, that was on the side, and then I had to do education to, I don't know, maybe teach art or something, or teach whatever. So I did a course in cultural studies at the University of Windsor, and there I did a thesis media project, which had a video component, which was very high tech at that time, which was only in 1990. No, was
it with a Super 8 recorder, camcorder?
Hang on. This is 95, I think.
Yeah, Super 8, Super 8 camcorder.
Yeah. It was yeah. I took that over to England, and I made a video over there, and it was called "Who's Asking?" And so that video was sort of one part of the thesis. The other part was about interviewing, what we're doing right now, and how people. Like just example, we kind of came in here into the Raven, and we sat down and we got our beers and everything, but we had another shot planned over there, and it's like, okay, well, we're not quite comfortable, we're close, but we're too close maybe, right? So people will kind of notice that it'll be projected, that discomfort. So I guess to get it back to the interview, let's talk about interviewing.
Okay.
Let's say, do you recognize a sort of a power within the interviewer?
Oh yeah.
And can you tell me what you think that is, and how does that affect the interview?
Well, it's a bit like having your hand on the throttle, right?
Yeah.
Where you can slow it down
Yeah.
or speed it up. And the person that's being interviewed will take the cues from you, whether they're with your eyes, with where you look. They're reading every minute of looking at you. So whatever I do is information for them. And that's my throttle.
Yep.
Right? So I could break it just by going.
Yeah. Completely.
I don't have to say a word.
Yeah.
I just put the eyebrow up, right? And
right.
they're like, "Oh, what did I say?
Oh, shit.
Something's coming."
What happened?
Right?
Yeah.
If they can pick up those type of cues, and most people can, and I can do that verbally as well.
Yeah.
and I can get it back on track. So I have the steering mechanism and the throttle.
Yeah.
And
The steering is interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, because it is it's like it's sort of like, you know, what they used to call psychoanalysis or something, right? Like the analyst is talking to you, sort of asking questions and trying to almost lead you somewhere, right? And they talk about that in the courtroom. It's a leading question.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what you do as an interviewer, right?
Yeah, leading, pointed,
Yeah.
open-ended,
Yeah.
right? Like there's all kinds of different types of ways to approach a question. I just want to make sure that red light's on. I can't see it without
That's
glasses.
part of the interview is, holy shit, did any of this get recorded?
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at the mic. I'm looking at the video camera, and when you're on a one-man show,
Yeah. Which is what it is now.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I can't pay somebody to operate my camera,
No.
and to double check to make sure the sound's coming in at the right times, and
Yeah.
I just got to try to do it right.
And nobody's paying for your YouTube.
Nobody's paying for YouTube. Like, no, this is what it becomes. Bare bones.
We have definitely talked about that at
Yeah.
NRCC.
Yeah.
You know, how do we keep doing this by ourselves without any financial support? You know, like
It's finding a way to make a business model work out of it. Yeah, it's the tough part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's succeeding for you. I guess we could talk a lot more about the interview, and that would be
Just talk about that.
Yeah. Well, we were at this thing about the throttle and the steering.
Yeah.
I just tend to think that there's other stuff. When I was looking at it, well, you just did all the politicians, and I was sort of listening in the background, right? And
And sometimes talking.
yeah, but what happens is I think the audience picks up on what you think of the candidate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's something that comes through, sort of maybe you're like, okay, I can't really find anything to talk about with this guy, you know, or with this woman, you know, or wait a minute, this is super interesting. I'm really into it. Let's talk more.
Yeah.
You know, so is that something that you notice, and do you get feedback on that? Do people kind of go, yeah? Do you get any feedback from people seeing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have had people say I could tell
Yeah. That
you didn't buy what they're saying, or I could tell that there was more to it, or I could tell that you really wanted to get that point. Yeah, you know, like they can pick up on the vibe that I'm projecting, and I am projecting because I know I'm withholding some of the vibe.
Yeah.
As well, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want necessarily it to become me. That's the other thing. It depends on what your goal is in the interview. Like you see some of these people doing these interviews, and they look like they're actually trying to be the story. That they want to be smarter, better, faster than the person they're interviewing.
Yeah.
Or that they want to go to a certain place.
And also it's about their profile or their...
Yeah. They're projecting
this persona.
this way instead of projecting this way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot to that. And I don't want to be that guy that's projecting only there.
You're not that guy.
Yeah.
And I think that this might have even started, or we talked maybe before we turned on record, but we were talking again about these political candidates, the series that you did just recently, just last week or a couple weeks ago. And I think I'm just going to throw it out there, and please just expand if you can. But it seems like people like the bartender here.
Oh, we're at the
liked-
Raven Republic, by the way.
Yeah, Raven and Republic, yeah. She identified completely. As soon as she heard that you were with Small Town Times and that you were doing this, she was like, I love those. And I think it's because not just this new person, this candidate, but also where you're coming from as an interviewer. I don't know what that means exactly, but like the fact that you're not an academic, you're not you're smart, you know all of the issues and things, and you know what the city kind of needs in a leader. But you're not uppity about that, you're not like, you should do this. And like, so...
I've dialed down the arrogance.
Yeah. You learned, eh? So
being wrong a lot.
But that's that. I don't know. You're too humble, but I think that that's super important for an interview, to be that type of person. Do you agree with that? And
I agree with that.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
And possibly for others as well, but I don't want to speak for others. They have styles that I walked into a business that was buying the magazines they hand out to their customers. The owner has been subscribing. He lives in Sudbury. Brother lives in Ottawa. But when he heard that I was selling magazines to businesses to hand out as gifts, right, like a cut deal, so I went in there to deliver, and it was a construction parts business, right? So, about 3 guys behind the counter taking orders, looking for parts, and I was, what magazines are these? Oh, that's cool. Oh, you're that guy.
Yeah.
One of the guys is like, "Oh, you're one of us."
Nice. Yeah.
I don't like shaving.
Yeah.
I wear t-shirts. I'm notoriously have a bad haircut.
Yeah.
Right. I wear jackets, not.
And now you got the hat.
And the hat's. The hat's a whole different topic. Actually.
There we go.
It's
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2. And Down Child Blues. I need a hat, right? And I went to their 40th anniversary in Toronto with a girlfriend at the time.
Oh,
and
okay.
The CD at that time they were releasing was "I Need a Hat." So this is the Down Child Blues, flip, flop and fly kind of thing. But there's more to it too.
Lovely. I think I have that album actually. I have the Down Child.
But my persona and my real life is that I'm kind of a common guy. Yeah. I'm a regular guy, I think, right? Like I'm not pretentious like some, and I try not to project that I'm a know-it-all because I'm not. I've been humbled all through life. Yeah. And but I learned a lot too, so I'm comfortable saying no. I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not totally squeamish on that.
I think I've learned a ton from my friends in the Indigenous community, and I know you have too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of that is not being afraid to say no. I fucking don't believe you.
Just being straight up.
Just being right, straight. No, no offense, but no, I'm not going to do that. Or you're not the boss of me. That kind of thing.
And also being comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
And others, Indigenous and others, people who are grounded are comfortable with who they are, not who they, and they're not uncomfortable wanting to be someone else, right? And so you meet enough of those people, and you start sort of getting comfortable with yourself, right? Like I can sit with somebody I absolutely hate.
Also,
and talk to them.
You're also comfortable with your place. It's very much associated to place It is, and I did want to get around to that because we talk a lot at NRCC. We have these discussions, which are great, and that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Because we just had a great talk, and okay, let's do it in front of the camera. But the thing is that a lot of times we're talking about, how can we be happier in our community? How can we be more comfortable, more relaxed? How can we, make more friends? How can this be a friendlier place? And I think that oh shit, I've kind of lost my train of thought there.
Well, when we've talked about it before,
Yeah.
we realize that we build one person at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those ways of building one person at a time is sitting down and talking to them.
Yeah.
And getting to know them.
Yeah.
Right? I was just at a Probus Club, Blue Sky, doing a presentation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things I was describing was community is getting to know the people, right? So when we link that to the interview style I used for the candidates, and I think what most people appreciated was that they got to know those candidates better, right? So one person at a time, if we know each other as neighbors and know each other, we have to be nicer to each other because now we know each other,
Yeah.
right? And that's the link, I think.
Yeah.
How do we do it? We get to know each other.
That's very much the importance of journalism too.
Well, yeah,
You
it's
know?
the basis of it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just to get to know you
Knowledge is better than the fear of the unknown,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And that's what I was talking about, is that
Yeah.
fear. When I was with the Probus Club, I was talking about my experience with the Union of Ontario Indians for 7 years and whatnot. I did my little jokes about being the
Yeah,
token
the
white guy. And
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that. But they taught me many things, but how to handle and rationalize what some people call reverse racism is, right? Right. So I was the white guy showing up at reserves in a big Bonneville with like a government type job, handing them their newspaper, right?
Yeah.
I didn't always get a good reception.
Yeah.
And so I had to digest that and
Yeah.
figure that out. And
Yeah.
but once most people got to know me, and once I got to know them,
Yeah.
you understand that racism is often the lack of knowledge and fear
Yeah.
of the unknown about a person. Of course, there's the underlying thing that biologically we fear dissimilar, so anybody that looks different than us, and we have those roots of racism where we're told people that don't look like us must be less educated or less smart or have whatever.
Yeah, and that's
just
from
institutionalized sort
that's
of.
from your and my white Western
Well, it happens everywhere.
settler
In every group.
kind of cut.
No, every group. Go to the deepest parts of Africa and two black nations. They're racist about each other.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
prejudice, right?
Yeah.
It's just because they're afraid these guys are going to steal these guys' lunch. Basically, it's a fear of someone's taking what you think is yours,
Yeah.
right? So.
Yeah, that's basically.
But a lot of that melts when you get to know each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I love about what I do.
Yeah. That's the idealism right there. That's the ideal. Yeah.
There was candidates that I didn't think much of, but I ended up thinking more of after I sat down with them for an hour.
I don't want to go past what that notion of, think globally, act locally, because that was where I was trying to go.
Okay.
Was like this idea that, and what I'm reading now with the book, The Myth of Progress, and all of this, and with our Broken Forest Art and the Environment stuff.
Yep.
That this is what we have to do. we may think globally, but we must act and buy and befriend locally. We must. That's sort of the message that many, ecologists or environmentalists are passing on. It's like don't despair, don't sit at home, just do a bit more. Here in your local bar or here in your local market.
Get to know somebody you don't know that lives near you.
Yeah. And that's what Back to the Bay magazine and Small Town Times, I really do think that's what they're doing. They're definitely getting more people to know you, and a little bit NRCC and stuff. So I think.
Well, that old.
That's another cheers point.
We're heading in a good direction here. Not talking about interviewing techniques, but we're talking about the goal of what we do, right?
Yeah.
There's an analogy, sort of learning story about the strength of one stick compared to 10 sticks combined, right?
Yeah, a bundle. Yeah.
Now, think about the fact that you have to be close to each other for strength.
Yeah.
And then the sort of extrapolate that to people. It's really tough to be strong and together if you're not close to each other and understand each other. How can you be strength? Like, say, West Nipissing First Nation, North Bay, East Ferris, Redbridge, Callander, they're sticks, right? But if those sticks aren't near each other in heart and mind, they can't really have strength.
And it is about a point of view, because, really, if you're in Redbridge or you're in Ferris, you really do have the same perspective on the rest of the world, really. I mean, physically.
More in common than uncommon.
Yeah. And
or not common.
Sometimes I wonder about this thing, the internet, and all of our technological wonders, that it is actually, the bundle is being pushed further apart by those things.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it can.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Here's a good example of that.
Yeah.
Like, the Fifth Column podcast.
Yeah.
An American that down in Florida, redneck looking, smart as a whip, military, educated, understands way more than I do. This is really into communications.
He's a podcast.
He's a podcaster, right?
Okay,
Of the Fifth Column.
Yeah.
And he would be what you would call a lefty, but he looks like a redneck Republican.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've been watching his in the column for a few years now.
Yeah.
And he was talking the other day about the midterm elections in the States, right? So I get a little bit of information from that. And he was talking about how once you take away the glitz, the glamour, and the politicalization of campaigns, only then can you get it to know the candidates, right? And that by knowing the candidates, all that gloss and all that fakeness doesn't count.
Yeah.
Right? So I put a comment on there saying I tried something different up in North Bay, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah.
Right? And that I tried to do these one-on-one candidate long-form discussion podcast interviews. And one of the first people to comment is from somebody from North Bay that are following him as well. And I don't know was because they just found him or I used to share his stuff. I featured him in the column I wrote for the Nugget once. Yeah. I mentioned him anyways. But there's people in North Bay following the same thing I'm following, and we found each other right there. We haven't.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. We're not going to meet or anything. But that was somebody that said, "Oh, I saw your podcast, and that really helped me in that election."
Yeah.
And a guy out of Florida doing a podcast that's all over North America and the world.
That has through the comment area linked you guys.
Yeah.
And that's great, but I don't think that completely negates what I said. really.
No, it doesn't. No, the
because
the
there's a
internet has
lot
the
of
power
stuff.
to divide,
Yeah.
but it also has the power to bring us,
To surprise us with.
to surprise us
Yeah.
at how close we really are
Yeah,
together.
and I think
right?
after you talked about that, I talked about sort of algorithms, right?
Right.
And the fact that there is somebody in North Bay who's looking at exactly the same podcast out of Florida, it has a little bit to do with the fact that whenever we look at anything, anywhere on the internet, it's being recorded somewhere. Somebody, some computer is saying, oh, that's where they're going. Okay. Well, we'll group them over here because that'll be a good advertiser to get their money, They'll be interested in that product. And I think algorithms are kind of incredibly important and will be more so in the future.
That must be why I got the DeSantis invite to come move to Florida.
Maybe. You didn't, but anyway.
And I won't.
No. I guess I'm into it just because my daughters are very much into it. I did want to talk about something else, though, to do with those interviews with the candidates.
Okay.
And that is that I really think it's cool that you offered this experience up to these sometimes extremely new political leaders and some of the more veteran ones. And I also think it's cool, Dave, that you leave it at that. That it is a thing I offer to you guys. We're doing this equally. This is as objective as I can possibly be. And those candidates who do not want to take part in it, it's fine. We don't need to. This is something I think important. And what I noticed about it was it seemed very not forced or something. Like it was a free will thing. If you want to come out and do this, you can,
Well, I'll tell you the process, how it developed, and it wasn't planned very well. I wanted to do everybody, but I offered it first to those who advertised in the Back in the Bay magazine.
Right, yeah.
And then I got COVID in September. So the first week and a half of scheduled interviews had to be pushed back 10 days, basically.
Whoa, shit, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I lost precious time.
Yeah.
So I was afraid with my other work and whatnot that I was, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Each one of the podcast interviews, none of them were cost less than 3 hours.
I know.
Right? A half hour prep should be longer. An hour to do it. An hour to watch it again.
Yeah.
In case there's stuff that you got to take out.
Yeah.
An hour to edit.
Yeah.
More sometimes,
Yeah,
depending.
because of rendering and
Rendering, and then there's it was a process. It was 4 to 5 hours for each video.
Yeah.
Times 25, but there was 29 just council candidates, then 3 mayoral candidates.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite the way I'd like to set it up next time.
Yeah.
Next time it's going to be an open invite to everybody. There might be something special or extra for advertisers because I got to sell ads for the magazine, or I don't have a studio or a podcast. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to charge to actually do the interview because I want it to be whatever I feel like talking about, and I'm the editor, so
it's not an advertorial
it's not.
for them.
It's not. I'm not gonna. I did offer everybody 30-second edit. So if there's one screw up they made or said something that they realized at the end they wanted out, they could take out a 30-second chunk.
Okay.
And that was the only thing I allowed them.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Right?
that's an
It was a
interesting-
straight off conversation.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
of those things didn't have any edits. They were straight, all they had, right?
It's an interesting sort of proviso or something too.
Yeah.
To give that,
Yeah.
you can go through it, and if there's something you really blew it, you called your brother-in-law by the wrong name or something, we can get rid of that. Yeah. nice.
Yeah. Otherwise, you want it to be legit and genuine and straight up and not edited, right? Because that's kind of another thing the viewer appreciates. I think is that it's uncut.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
I guess I'm just gonna go lateral again because through this thesis that I wrote, which was called The Ideology of the Interview, I mentioned to you about Bill Grundy, his interview with the punk group the Sex Pistols,
right?
And how he sort of was really, you could tell the interviewer, Bill Grundy, was completely, horrified by these street urchins, and whatever they were, and
it'd be like me, interviewing a bunch of rich people.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I think he'd be a little bit less less obvious. But then the thing about that interview was that the Sex Pistols turned it completely on its head.
What?
It's on BBC. It's going out to every television set in the country.
Was that a live interview?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And they just tore him to shreds because he was a dirty old man. He was
being arrogant.
He was wrong.
Yeah, he was being arrogant. All those things.
Yeah. So I guess that's leading to my interest in how is the interview now, and how is it now that it is, you don't represent an institution anymore. I mean, in fact, we're kind of at the end of the paper, the print media, right?
Well, we're nearing a crossroad where the media moguls and the empires aren't necessarily considered worthy or trusted, and a lot of constriction in the industry has put a lot of journalists out of work, so they're doing what I'm doing, independent news, independent commentary, independent analysis and whatnot.
Yeah.
And building things up from scratch again from the bottom, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you were going with that.
No. That's sort of part of it. I guess we always knew that the corporations had a lot of control over what journalists say. Well,
there were standards, and there were sometimes excuses.
Okay.
But there was never
direct.
Never direct. I wrote columns for most of the time I was with the Nugget. It was a right-leaning ownership.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes a right-leaning publisher.
Yeah.
But you'd be hard pressed to find a lot of right-leaning columns that I wrote.
Yeah.
Right. I was one of the balancing equations when we were taken over by Sun Media and turned into a shit show. Right.
Yeah.
Where
I guess it's true that a good institution does function that way. I assume, and that makes an ass out of me, but that those institutions changed a bit when the bottom fell out.
Yep.
And you were laid off, and thousands.
I took a buyout. I wasn't laid off.
Okay, you took a buyout. Okay.
I took a package
from the Nugget.
Yeah, I took a.
A lot of people did. Dennis did that as well.
Yeah, well, there was. I think Dennis had a layoff package because they eliminated the photo department
at first. Yeah.
Right, so he ended up with the severance package. The newspaper guild had negotiated with, the company.
Yeah.
I was a newspaper guild president, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
So, lefty, socialist, working for a right-leaning paper,
But
writing columns twice a week for like 5 years.
yeah. So if they had said anything, you would have noticed.
I would be the first to notice.
Yeah.
I've been now, I'm not saying that everybody. So when I say there's standards, that means that I could keep doing what I was doing if I was interesting, and doing it with some type of, an average of above average class. Anyways. No matter what I was writing, if I was embarrassing them, I wouldn't be writing for them.
Right. Or if you were anywhere getting close to libel or slander or anything.
Oh yeah, and that's mostly controlled by the editors, because they take out the stuff that you shouldn't have put in there in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? Normally.
Yeah.
Although there's a couple incidences where my columns went through, but all of a sudden it was my fault only.
Oh,
and I was
really?
thrown under the bus.
Okay, yeah.
Because all of a sudden, they're like this big corporation that didn't know what it was publishing.
So it's easy for them. They're just there you go.
He was
There's
out of
the
line.
scapegoat.
He was out of line. The two editors above me just were asleep at the switch, but that's okay.
That reminds me of one of the great things about journalism for me back when.
Yeah.
So I guess we're sort of talking about back then and now, right? Mm-hmm. And back then, your publisher always stood like a rock in front of you.
If it got into ink,
yeah,
the publisher stood behind you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because he had total control over the process of getting it to print.
Yeah. And he would not let people,
there was 3 editors that would get shit if they let something get through that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
And not to standard, right?
Yeah.
The difference now is, now there's 1 editor maybe, and you're putting it online first before anybody sees it.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
So the speed of it.
The speed of it is leading to sloppy work, substandard.
Yeah, I think there's. I do a lot of. I'm trying to see if there's a different purpose for my art making, and that includes reporting to people. It's my kind of weird reporting, but it's about jogging people. It's about informing people of things that are happening, for instance, in the forest, right? In our forests. Things that are happening that I know are happening, but the people who are doing it don't want anyone to know they're doing it. And that seems to be that I'm starting to become a bit of a journalist in a way. Isn't that what journalists should be doing?
Well, it's an interesting topic. Mm-hmm. What people expect from journalists and what they will accept from journalists and what they will pay journalists to do are 3 different friggin' things, right?
Yes.
They all love it when we go and cover the thing that needs to be covered because nobody's covering it, and it needs somebody to pull the sheet off and really expose something.
Yeah.
Everybody's for that.
Yeah.
Usually when it's for the better good, right? Of course, the corporation that you might be pulling the sheet back on might not appreciate it, and they don't like it, but that's different. The general public appreciates it.
Yeah.
Apparently they're not appreciating it enough to pay for it.
Yeah.
Which is partly the problem with the internet, but also how the news industry handled the conversion to internet.
Yeah.
They never should have given everything away for free. Yeah. Quality journalism should never be free. Unless you got a really good market of advertising-based market, but that got pulled out from under them because advertisers got another way to do things. So when they tried to chase after eyeballs with giving away things for free, when the advertisers knew that they could find the eyeballs without them,
That's when
that was the big mistake.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the big mistake. Now that's why you have paywalls now. Paywalls should have been from the beginning, but there was some upstart and popular sites that were taking news from everybody, like the radio stations used to do, and making it like it's their own.
I gotta say,
they were stealing work.
It's getting more and more similar to contemporary art. It really is, because of that idea that I'll make something, and it has this value because of the time I spent on it and the materials, etc. And my experience, but another artist can easily undercut that, and then you can go to a student artist and get something for less and less and less, and that's the bell that I'm hearing ringing when you're saying this about the fact that the internet, these media corporations and media institutions, they can't escape the fact that there's free. There is Reddit, and all of these things are completely free. How do you compete against that in a way? Right?
The only thing you can do is create higher quality product.
Yeah. But then how do you
convince them that the dog shit that they're eating
is
for
dog
free
shit?
is worth that much?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I figured it out, I wouldn't be sitting here. Right? But maybe I would be sitting here.
Yeah.
I'd just be drinking their better beer.
It is about sort of us trying to figure out how, capitalist media, I'm going to call it that, sorry, I do call it that, capitalist media, how they can, profit more. And so I'm not that interested in that at all. But I do think that the way to do it is through just activity, getting by.
What are the tenets of a good news story? What are the legs that hold up a good news story?
W5. Yeah.
The 5 W's
Yeah.
are the structure of the story.
Yeah.
But what make it valuable? Timely,
Yeah.
localized,
Yeah.
relevance.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's the cornerstone of journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I might have mixed up one in there,
Yeah.
but basically that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hey, you want to be scared? I was talking to Ed Regan the other day, and he was showing me the app they have for AI art and photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're all messed up, man. You have no future as an artist. I have no future as a photographer.
Because this beautiful AI stuff that's coming.
The AI is scraping the entire World Wide Web and creating original photo portraits for advertisers that are original non-people.
Jesus.
And it's
So these are kind of what they call avatars, sort of, or
basically they can provide an advertising marketing photo of two people laying around naked or whatever they need to sell it with.
yeah.
Without actually
Something
hiring two
shows up.
people or a photographer or the crew needed to do it. It's an
Wow.
app. You just say, hey, I need two people on the beach that are naked, one black, one white, one red,
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I was never good at math. But yeah, you could punch in, I need a black woman with an Asian man with a
baby.
baby in the
there.
middle or something like that.
Yeah.
And it poof.
Wow.
Yeah, no, you're done. Artists and photographers
Yeah.
and soon writers.
Okay, that's cool. That's interesting, but it's.
But they don't know
fine.
the
That's
people I
fine.
know.
Yeah.
And they don't know what I know.
Like the whole sort of gallery system, the whole commercial fine art system was gone years ago. COVID completely killed it. Hey,
So doing okay in here?
Another round, please.
Another round? Sure. Yeah. What did we get here?
this was Tibet
626.
on ice.
626 and Tibet on ice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Thank you. What was I talking about?
I don't know.
It had to do with art.
Oh yeah,
Because-
the fine art was gone.
Yeah, and that's why I talk about this other purpose. I don't think this other purpose is as directly about sustaining myself. Because I'm retired, or not retired, but I'm on
You have less
old
to
age
sustain.
pension, and less time. Who cares? So I'm not in the same position I was when I was a younger artist that needed to sell the work or get a show. Then I could get paid artist fees, things. But this idea of doing something about climate change, about the destruction of the beautiful nature that's around us, that seems to be just as good as selling a painting to somebody, and maybe even better, because money is just
So unfortunately, can I take this from you here too?
Sure.
So unfortunately, we don't have any more Tebe. We have Black Label or Red Label.
Oh, that's all you have?
Yeah.
No, I'll just.
We have
I'll
Jameson.
I'll just stick with this. I've still got some.
Still got some? Okay.
Could you bring me some more ice?
Some more ice? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
You drank all the cheap shit.
No, I did.
It was one shot.
The chip stuff. That's just a rant. I guess I've always ranted, but how to fit it back. So again, I guess I just see that maybe what we're doing as entrepreneurs, as people who have skills, are running a small business by themselves. We have similarities, right? I mean, and
Very much a creative industry.
yeah.
And trying to find utility for the skill sets that we have, right? The crafts that we're in.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And it's a matter of finding that. But I think the answer is always going to be relevance to the consumer,
Yeah.
timeliness, and utility is probably the best word.
Yeah.
How can they use that?
Yeah.
Right? Same for art. Same for music. Somewhat. Music's a different game. But art-wise,
Yeah.
spending a month on a painting and hoping to sell it, it's going to be, there's going to be a market for that, but it's going to be
Somewhere else.
somewhere else. and yeah, you're going to be in a different market.
Yeah.
But the ability to do it and knowing what to do is still valuable. Whether a computer is doing it or you're doing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So some artists are going to have to prostitute themselves to the point where they're running the AI to produce exactly what's working,
Yeah.
because the AI can only take it so far because it needs human input.
Yeah.
Who does the human input? That's going to be the artist.
Yeah.
Right? So the guy that used to arrange a photo shoot with models, that knew exactly how to light it and exactly how to do it and how to frame it, he's going to be running the AI program.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going
instead
to be
of
there.
hiring
Yeah,
a crew to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And this comes around to something that our generation, my generation, has seen and been through.
Yeah.
Is
Technology.
wiping
Evolution.
wiping out jobs, right? Like
Yeah.
photographer at a newspaper, that doesn't exist anymore.
No.
Printers. I started as a printer. I ran a printing press. That's A.B. Dick came along, and now with a button, someone can print 200-page hardcover book, because there's a machine for that. There's a capital good.
There's an app for the person to put the content in with the photo. There's an already set number of designs that you can choose from.
Yeah.
And you can get it delivered to you by Amazon tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So all of these jobs get wiped out. And then what does capitalism do with all of us? Me, you, everyone. What does that system... I guess that's a...
This is how capitalism works.
Yeah.
When people are killing themselves because there's no utility in their life, they have no hope, they sell rope.
That's right.
And caskets.
Yes.
Right? So capitalism take care of that.
Yeah.
But they don't care.
Yeah.
You're just a unit, right?
Yeah.
I think
that does get maybe back around to North Bay.
Okay.
And to like this idea of thinking globally. I'm kind of like been there, done that. But acting locally, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Acting locally.
What it means to me as a storyteller,
Yeah.
who's trying to build up brands and products and providing a service, to mine the local assets that we have, which are the Bob Moynans, which are the Gary Gardners,
Yeah.
telling stories of local people about local issues now
Yeah.
that people can use and appreciate here. And I can't sell that widget in the United Kingdom, and I can't sell that widget in Brazil. And I'm going to have to learn to live within my means if I want to just do it here. Or, at the same time, I build up Coffee with Canucks, as a podcast that eventually, if I do it right, is a product I can sell to platforms in the States that want to hear what Canadians are talking about.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Local people, but global issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aviation,
Yeah.
railroading,
Yeah.
fishing.
That every single
Hunting,
one of those,
trapping, right?
has a local effect. It's a global issue, but it has a local effect.
Local expertise
Yeah.
and local people,
Yeah.
but of interest to others.
Yeah. Again, I get this sort of parallel with what's happening at the Curatorial Collective, because I'm seeing all of those things, but just adding the word culture, adding the word, these are of cultural interest. These are people who are shaping our culture in some way. These are people who are building bridges between communities, right? We have diverse communities around here. We have francophone communities that are strong and brilliantly creative, and I'm seeing those people who are bridging, bringing them closer to indigenous communities, or so. This whole conversation has really been very much about, like, we come from different backgrounds, but yet I think, Dave, you and I can see, like, that in some ways we're on parallel paths, I guess, anyway. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, we're in the same stratosphere of an adventure and journey where neither of us are really distracted by wanting to have a pile of gold behind us.
That's
right?
true.
So I think that,
that's very true. Well said.
I think that's something a lot of people have in common now, is that they're less concerned with hyper-consumption now to build up wealth for tomorrow.
Yeah, they're less concerned with that.
They're less concerned with that because they saw there's flaws in that theory.
Yeah.
And And the major flaw of that theory is that it's hard to live a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
When you're worried and distracted with the gold, but also you get the feeling that you're trading off something that you can never buy, which is time. So I think the commonality amongst the people that I see eye to eye with is that they value time and more than they do gold.
Yeah.
Right? And time is that precious. So, I was talking at the Probus, and what I said was, going through the process of watching my father enter into dementia, and then his death, really hit home the idea that there's a limit to how much time you can waste.
Yeah.
So my living theory right now, my modus operandi really is that I got 20 years left. I 75. I'm 57, 75. So what is that? 18 years?
Yeah. I don't know. We're both pretty bad at math.
It's 18 years.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, I decided I'm going to live my life like I only have 20 years left.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking I got to live my life because I might have 40. I don't really care what happens at 75.
Yeah.
If I live the next 20 worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm not sure if I'm the only one. I don't think I am, and I think you realize that your wasteful days are behind you, and everything now is gold.
Yeah.
Ahead of you, right?
Gold. Also, I think sort of space. It's everything ahead of you is basically the universe, our connection to all, right? These kind of totally flaky things about our own souls and our own spirits. I mean, we're free now to follow that, to notice it, to build it, to respect it. So that's there. I was thinking though about the other thing that is sort of harmful about this wasting of time. I had this theory that when I was working at the Capitol Center, it was a great job in terms of like setting up shows, being able to program people, make my own work at the same time, and learn a lot about grant writing and art projects and project management. But I have this theory that it was killing me, that the job was fucking killing me, and I wonder.
I felt I was dying at the Nugget.
Really? Yeah.
After the first 10 years.
After 10, yeah. You know what? This guy in St. Catharines, a filmmaker guy, he says that about jobs. This is the truth. The first 5 years, you're taking in information, you're taking in energy, right, from the job. The next 5 years, you're taking and it's taking equally. The next 5 years, it's all taken from you, right? Sucking you dry. That's how jobs work.
Well, it about goes right along with my timeline. With a lot of different nuanced sort of things that happen there, like a divorce and raising a kid and other things. But
jobs are, it was the people I worked with that was the hardest thing, right? And I don't know, that's what causes the tension. That's what really causes the tension, and then the stress, the stresses on your body, I think.
I also align it with whatever stress was outside the job that made it impossible to function and enjoy the job more and longer. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what was going on in your life when you were at the Capitol Center, when it was the worst part. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I know the worst part at the Nugget for me was when I wasn't happy.
Yeah, I think so. It is all of a...
You can't be happy.
It's all wrapped up.
You can't be unhappy in both sides of your life.
No.
Work and home.
No, then it's bad.
You can be unhappy at work and have a happy home.
Yeah.
You can have a happy home and be unhappy, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't. If you're too happy at work, then there's a problem there. But
but it's a load you can carry.
It's a load you can carry.
But if both of them are on your back.
Yeah, if they're both at the same time, they're not working out. Yeah. It's toxic.
I guess that we should maybe cut it pretty soon. But
by the way, a little commercial here. I'm drinking 626 by the Gateway Brewery.
Gateway Brewery over on Gormanville.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, Sully. I can't. What the hell?
Hey, it's your interview, man. Come on.
It's been a long one.
Yeah.
It's been the first one I've done for quite a while. At this length.
And you come from the Dale School of Preparation.
Yeah.
You don't have any notes or questions or nothing. Right?
But have we covered it? Have we sort of talked a lot about the interview? Or?
Well, let's talk about that right there.
Okay.
Like, Peter Hanley will tell me, and he has.
Yep.
The problem with my interviewing is that I'm not prepared and I don't have a list of questions. And I haven't done the homework necessary to actually do it. Mm-hmm. And he's absolutely right. Except for I'm really good at thinking on my feet. And I always come into an interview with 3 questions in my head. Yeah. And they're here the whole time.
Yeah.
And I always wait and see how it's going. And my style, like you saw, my number one priority is to make the person feel less stressed.
Yeah.
I always open with a little bit of something that catches them off guard, that just lets them laugh a little bit, or just what, right? Anything.
They get, oh, he knew that.
Yeah,
what?
they come in. They come in thinking one thing, and they're dreading I do something, or they dread that if I'm going to ask this thing.
Yeah.
So one of my techniques is to find a way to break the ice real quick.
Yeah.
And then just sort of relax.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking that I talked a little bit before about one of the things that I liked about interviewing, because I did some interviews for videos and documentaries and stuff, and that was what I call the go of conversation. Remember I was talking about that? But it's GAO? Yeah. It's
the Asian game of I think it's called Go either way. I'm not sure. We better double check. I think it's in between there.
Comment line.
Yeah.
No, that go of conversation just means to me that you take one nugget and you put it down on the board. Look at that. And I react with this one to that.
Yep.
And then you react not purely to your first stone, but to your first stone and my stone together.
I have to adapt.
Yeah, you have to adapt, and then you put it down again. To me, just to lengthen that into the sort of interview structure, you can influence that. Go is a game of strategy.
Yeah.
You strategize where you want the conversation to go by, okay, I'm considering both, I've put that there. That means that my interviewee will probably put their stone here.
Yeah.
So you're kind of thinking 2 or 3 or 10 or 20 stones ahead.
Yeah.
And that makes it a little bit like jazz. a little bit like, jazz, which is one player lays down something, an idea, and then the other player sort of lays down something that came from that initial riff, right? So I guess for me, the interview is an art form.
Well, yeah, and very adaptive.
Yeah.
Very much adaptive, I think.
Yeah. To do with storytelling, right?
Yep.
And character, and
I think it would throw people off for what I'm trying to do. Mm-hmm. If I had a list of questions on a
oh yeah,
right?
I would.
You'd be wondering what's coming next, because I have a plan. But if I'm just sitting here without any notes and looking at you and talking to you, you lose that defensive mechanism.
Yeah.
I would think a clipboard with a list of questions would cause somebody, in this day and age, from me in the interviews I do, it worked really well for Peter. He was like the best at interviewing, right?
Yeah, he would have it there. And
worked good for that.
He interviewed me a couple of times,
But for me, from what I find is that because of the other activities I do as far as communications go, my columns and whatnot, they come in already a little bit wondering where the hell I'm going to go.
There is that. And they're dealing with your character, your profile, my
reputation
persona.
precedes me. And I have to wash that away. Right? Because I'm really not that way. But that's how it appears that I am.
Yeah.
Right? If you read one of my columns, a lot of people think that it's a well-planned military operation here, but it's really not.
It's an extremely rational, logical brain that's there, yours. But it's you said your three things. It's timely, it's temporal, it's of now, right? And that's spontaneity as well. And if you have a list of questions, you develop those beforehand. And oftentimes with that list of questions, it can be for anybody, the interviewee is interchangeable. But
exactly.
A
lot of a lot of things that would be on my list to ask are things that everybody would ask.
Yeah. So how is that going to make an original interview or an original story, something coming out of it? But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just this idea of a list. The idea of, I guess, spontaneity to me is it's generative of something. It's generating something. I did also like in your interviews that you could tell, and in this interview it's true, that there has been research done. There's been conversations prior to this one, I'm afraid, right? That so that we can echo, so that we can you can know where I'm sort of going in a sense, right? And that makes for a better interview, I think. That I think you do that with these folks. You sort of try to get to know them as much as you can, and then disarm them slightly, in a funny way, in a lighthearted way, I guess. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's What really helps me when I'm being interviewed by somebody is feeling that we're at a mutual sort of space and time, that we have a mutual idea of what we want to talk about. I know your experience, you know mine, and that's helpful because it allows us to go on these little tangents and come back, right?
Yeah. and to generate different stuff, to sort of go where we're unprepared to go.
Yeah.
You know?
I think what helps me in what I try to do is that I have a lot of general interests and a lot of general experience. So it seems to me that I can relate to a lot of people, one way or another.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing about good interviewers, is that they can relate to the person, right? That it's relatable. Maybe the topic, but also each other's personal lives.
Yeah.
As soon as I can find something that's common between us, that breaks the ice, right?
Yep.
And,
even if it's just an idea, or a sort of memory, or a place, or
What some people don't realize in some of those interviews is that I've talked with that person for a half hour before the interview.
Yeah.
I'm fishing for information.
Yeah.
I want to find something in some kind of relationship where it's off camera, but I garner some information that I can use. And I only need 3 things. I only need 3 questions, and I only need 3 things I know about the guy.
Really?
Or person.
Yeah.
And I can do an interview.
Yeah.
And I boiled it down to that.
Wow.
Now, other interviewers might have a different thing, but I need 3 things.
And they have to be quite separate. They
Yeah.
can't be one related to the other.
Or something that you could use as a transitional thing, right? Where they're like, oh yeah, we talked about that, right?
Yeah.
So they know where I'm going, but I'm going there, and they know, oh, that's what, you know. It really is an organic thing.
Yeah.
But it's helpful.
It's also a skill, because I can hear in your head what's going on in my head. Is that I can, because it's a little bit like chess as well as Go. It's this kind of idea that a lot of the interview is in the interviewer's head. It's sort of just jumping a little bit away, like, okay, Dermot's going to come to this point where he wants to hand it over to me, and he was going to shape it into some sort of a question, right? So I've got to be thinking that way as the interviewer who's being interviewed, right? So, and I'm not going to end it with, do you agree with that? I'm going to just jump over that and sort of say, does that make us, is that creativity? Is that creativity? Is that what that is?
I think so. It's adaptive creativity, and you have an intuition and all those other virtues of an engaged personality, right? If you notice, I'm very eye contact, right? That's huge, right? And in an interview,
you have a great listening capability too, which I noticed a long time ago. It's like, shit, this is disarming, because he's actually listening to this Irish fool.
Listening, it's more important to listen than to talk, right? And I have been in interviews where I can't listen because I'm thinking about the next thing I want to say. And I keep repeating in my head,
to try
oh my God, this is the question, I got to keep it, right? If you have the confidence to register what comes across your head and put it into a compartment as a possible question.
This is the bullpen.
This could be it. That could be the question.
Yeah.
But a lot of my mistakes in interviews is getting distracted by that and stop talking. Stop listening. Right?
Yeah.
And there are times when at the beginning of one of your monologue, right, where it's your turn to speak and you're talking and whatnot, that, I should ask this, goes there. But because I'm still listening, I come up with a better thing. So that first thing becomes a B plan. Now I'm listening for something that I can jump on at right at the end naturally. So I can ask a question about the last thing you want to say, because I can tell when you're done talking. Right? Well, you got your point across. Now it's my turn. Right? And if that point is made, and I have something to say, it's very much better than my plan B, my first question that popped into my head.
Yeah.
Because that's 5 minutes ago,
Yeah.
right? But I have that just in case I don't like where you went.
Yeah. That's right.
But that's what I'm thinking.
It's almost a sort of not reverse, but just a different direction. Again, that idea of steering.
Yeah,
right?
steering and the throttle, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I spend a lot of energy trying not to think and listen instead.
Yeah.
Because the listening is automatic thinking.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about thinking. It's already happening when I'm listening.
Yeah.
But I got to stop thinking about the first thing that came into my head.
Yeah.
That's the real exercise. That's what takes some energy is to block out what came into my head.
Yeah.
And listen actually real.
Yeah.
Right? So
I guess we should. I'm getting tired. What time is it?
well, it's time for another scotch.
Okay.
I just
good to go.
We're wrapping up.
Yeah,
We're wrapping up.
yeah.
We can talk again sometime. We don't have to do it all now.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
No, no.
We don't have to do it all now.
No. We can. There can be.
And I've been ending most of my interviews like that.
Yeah,
Let's talk again.
Yeah.
Whenever you feel like it.
That was Peter's best thing, I thought. Peter was like, he would get to the end of his interview, and as I remember it, and it would be like, oh gosh, we've got to talk about this and this and this and this. Got so much more stuff to talk about next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up with Peter anyway? He's leaving.
Well, they already left.
Okay. Yeah.
They moved to the Belleville, Kingston area.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be with their daughter. They have a big house. They're doing well. They made room for them. Renovated the house.
Wow. Nice.
The hardest part was going through all their 30, 40, 50 years of materials and
Yeah. It's a pretty big loss. I mean, they should still write. They should still write for Back to the Bay. I think so.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of thinking maybe I should go out to their place and interview them in their new digs.
Yeah, why not?
That'd be great. Right?
Yeah.
So that'd be worth a trip.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for the interview.
You did quite well.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, you did well too.
Okay, crew, wrap it up.
Right on. That was good. I think we covered some good stuff.